Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Mind Your Own Biz. My name is Alicia Yervis. I'm your host for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for tuning in if you're watching the video version on YouTube. So today, I'm going to be reconnecting with a friend from my former career in the arts. And I can't wait to talk about all the things with her. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But to just kind of kick things off, I wanted to share that I've been thinking and seeing a lot lately, just in my communities, in the online circles that I'm in, just from friends and colleagues and peers. I've been seeing a lot lately about how, a lot of business owners out there are very often, always, in fact, dealing with invisible stuff behind the scenes, right? You know that saying, you never know what someone else is dealing with, so always be kind. Which kindness is one of my uh one of the factors that makes up my ideal client avatar. I want to make sure that I click and vibe with them and that they are truly kind folks. So anyway, you just never know what's going on in someone's life. And we work so hard, right? We believe in our talents, our skills, our services. We are so passionate about helping our clients and our people, but uh it's you're only as good as how well rested you are. You need to protect your energy and make sure that, you're good so that you can be there for your people. And it's hard to do when, it's hard to sustain that energy when there's so much going on behind the scenes that literally nobody knows about. It's hard to put up those posts, write those emails, create those offers, lead those workshops, right? Record these podcast episodes when your mind is spinning, from what's going on behind the scenes or in your personal life. And then, of course, sometimes life can hit pause for you, right? Something unexpected happens, and you're down for the count, or something tragic happens, or there's some sort of emergency or something. And I think that solopreneurs are rarely told that pausing is like okay, right? You feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you just have to grin and bear it and keep going. And that's just not true. It's really not true. Rest and grief can completely shape your work just as much as productivity can. Just for a personal moment from my life, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you do need to take that pause in your business. I've shared about how, I recently led a ChatGPT workshop, which went really well. It was great. And I'm gearing up for the next one on some different topics. But I had to postpone it by almost a month because of a personal thing that came up. And, I made the decision that this is too important and I'm not going to do business as usual because this isn't business as usual. And though I come from a theater background with, the show must go on, hey, listen, sometimes the stage manager comes out and says, "Hold please." And sometimes we issue refunds to ticket buyers because for whatever reason the performance cannot go on that day. Which is a great tie-in for my guest too, because like I said, we met in the arts and in the theater industry. But sometimes you just need to pause. And so I decided, you know what? I'm not doing this workshop on the day that I said. I'm going to postpone it by a couple weeks. And I quickly communicated that that was happening. I let my buyers know. And nobody cared, by the way, which is great. Everyone was very graceful and understanding. And I was able to, just take the time to do what I needed to do, in my personal life, dealing with something. Um, and everything's fine and everyone's okay. And I felt so good being confident that I could do that, that I could, request that pause, communicate that pause, and hopefully everything would be okay, on the second round. And it was. But I also want to say, if you're trying to navigate a pause, first of all, if you're deciding if you need to take a pause in your business because of things that are happening, um, You absolutely should. Like if you're thinking about it, that means that you should. Um, but if you're, you know, trying to figure out how to then come back from that, it doesn't always have a blueprint. You don't always necessarily have the plan in place for the next thing or the duration that you're going to need to pause or what's going to happen when you come back. Am I going to, have the same energy? Am I going to be the same person? Whatever the event is that is causing you to want to explore taking a pause, be it big or small, you don't know what the other side of that is going to look like yet, and that is okay. We don't have to live in this like black and white way of thinking, you know? And so that's just some of what we're going to talk about with today's guest in just a moment. But I also want to mention if you're looking for support in how to navigate lifing when you're a business owner and maybe just need a little boost or some business advice, some tips, some strategies, you want someone to brainstorm with, be a soundboard for you, I want to share two resources with you before I welcome my guest. So, number one, I want to make sure that you know I have a free Facebook group. It's called The Help Desk with Alicia Yervis. There's over 500 business owners in there. I'm going to put the link to the group in the show notes so you can grab it from there. It's free to join. And it's just a space that I've had for a couple years where I'll go live in there. I'll share tips and tricks. I'll share resources with you, things that I'm discovering through my business. Obviously, you can ask as many questions in there as you like, and I try to get to everybody. And I just share a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes of my business too. So I would love to have you join there. So again, I will put the notes or put the link in the show notes. And the other is I want to make sure you know about my Empower Hour sessions. Empower Hour sessions. So this is a personalized one-to-one business brainstorm session on Zoom with me where we tackle your pressing challenges, we brainstorm ideas, and we craft a plan to move you forward. And it includes a recording of our session for easy reference for you to watch later, and you can keep that. And this is really for anyone who needs clarity, fresh ideas, or just a confidence boost, spending an hour with me. So I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes as well. And if you use promo code podcast at checkout, you can save on your session. So want to make sure you know that. Okay, so heading into today's episode, this one is for the creatives, the journalers, the burnt out business owners, and anyone that is just navigating that messy middle. Today, I'm talking to someone who knows that better than most. She's in the messy middle of a return to work after a multi-year grief sabbatical, and she's full of heart, humor, and wisdom. So Deb Cooperman, my friend Deb, is something of a writing evangelist. She leads workshops in intimate groups for women, spaces that are grounded, welcoming, and real. In her programs, the writing isn't about performance. It's about listening to ourselves and to each other. It's a simple practice, but one that has a way of bringing us back to what matters most. She believes that happy, powerful women send ripples out all around them, making a happier, stronger, more compassionate world. And the best way she knows how to make that happen is through the deceptively simple but profound practice of putting pen to paper. And I love alliteration, so I'm just going to repeat that last little bit. The profound practice of putting pen to paper. So I'm really excited to welcome my old friend, Deb Cooperman. Hello, my friend. It is so good to see your face and welcome you onto this podcast. Finally, I've wanted to have you on for such a long time, and I know I did need to reschedule, so thank you so much for your flexibility on that.
I'm just glad to be here. I'm so excited for you. It's really fun to see you doing this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we met long time ago. Like I don't even know how many years ago,
I
but
know,
and
I know.
I don't remember which venue I was working at the time. I think it was Two River Theater.
I think it was Two River, but I'm not positive. It might have still
Okay.
been because I think I worked for the nonprofit um, Association for Professional Theaters in New Jersey, and I was the
Right.
marketing director. And I
Hmm.
think, and I can't remember for sure, that I had a group of marketing directors and PR people from a variety of theaters meet
Hmm.
for a meeting. And I think you and I can't remember who else did a workshop on social media when we were all kind of like in the early days of Facebook, and people
Yeah.
were like, you have to get on Facebook, and I was like, this is stupid. And but we had to get right, all the theaters had to get on. And so I think,
Hmm.
I can't remember, I think that was the first of it. That's what I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think you were at Two River by then, but you might have
Yeah.
still
I
been, who
think
knows?
yeah, I started at Count Basie Theater. I moved over to Two River Theater in 2011. And yeah, I was like leading workshops and stuff on behalf of the theater, teaching other theaters and nonprofits how to establish their social media
Right.
presence, how to do social media marketing and stuff. And yeah, I remember that presentation, which I think was at George Street
It
Playhouse
was
in
at
New
George Street. It
Brunswick.
was. Yep.
Um, um, and yeah, that was where I had first met you face to face, but we had been emailing and stuff.
Yeah.
And we just stayed in touch over the years, even though we worked at, different organizations. And I just loved your personality. You're very like spunky and fun and just friendly, and
Oh,
I just
yes.
loved chatting with you. Um, and so yeah, we stayed in touch over the years. I went out on my own. You've always been so kind and supportive of what I've been trying to do in my business, and that just means so much to me. And it's been so fun for me to see what then you launched with your, or what you were doing with your business and launching these programs to help women with writing. And so I want to know, how did you make that shift into that business? And I know things are different right now and things are changing,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about that too. But how did that first kind of start to come together?
Um, I was thinking about, because I knew you would ask something along these lines. And, to go back, I can't even, I'm not sure like where the seed began, but I think
Hmm.
what I would say is that I was working for George Street Playhouse um, as a freelancer back in the, I can't even remember, back in the 90s. Um, and I'm quite a bit older than you are. And I got divorced and I moved west. I thought, if my life's going to change, I'm going to change my life. And I moved to the West Coast because I'd always wanted to try that. And
Hmm.
I had been freelancing for a while in PR and marketing and that sort of thing. And I thought, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I'd heard about this thing called coaching. And I thought, I'm going to hire a coach and get some help. So I was freelancing and I got a coach. And I also knew that I really loved writing. I had been doing some arts writing for a small publication and doing some like theater reviews and profiles and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, I want to do some writing. I don't know. So I hired a coach. And through that coach, I found this organization where I wound up getting a job doing PR, which was at the time was called the Coaches Training Institute. I forget what it's called now. They changed their name. But I
Hmm.
worked there in public relations. And one of the things that they wanted people who were in the programs to do was, or they wanted us to take all the programs. So I took the programs and thought, oh, I should be a coach.
Hmm.
And at the same time that I was doing that, I was in a writing workshop that somebody else was running. And I found that as a coach, I hated it. I just
Hmm.
really, I couldn't stand, I felt like my natural inclination is I want to talk to people, I want to give them suggestions, advice, and coaching is very much about, well, at least at that time, it was very different. And I just didn't feel like my strengths were used in that, even though, like, at the time, I thought, oh, I think that's kind of what happened with coaching is a lot of people would be like, oh, I want a coach. I'm going to hire a coach. I should be a coach. Let's take coaching.
Hmm.
So I wound up in that, like, in that little pyramid. And,
Hmm.
it just didn't fly for me. But I found that those clients that I did have, who would I started telling them I wanted them to send me like 24 hours or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I wanted them to send me some bullet point writing before our session. And I found that those people who would take the time to write what was going on and answer these like 5 questions or whatever it was that I had, like what's going on in your week? What were the hard parts? What were the other things? And then kind of, okay, what do you think we should be focusing on? And those people who did that, I like was like, oh, these people are are not just coming on a call going, here's the thing, and taking 30 minutes to get to the point. These people were already at the point. And I started to think, well, this writing thing, which I already knew, I've been keeping a journal since I was like 11. So I already
Mm.
knew. And I started thinking, well, I like this. Like this is fun. Like working with people who write to get to the stuff. And this is all happening at the same time that I'm in this writing workshop. And I started to think, like it was right around 9/11, and I started
Okay.
to think that I wanted to come back east. And then 9/11 happened. I was like, I just wanted to throw everything into the car and just drive home because I just couldn't stand to be
Mm.
so far away from all my family. It was in New Jersey and just wanted to come back. And I remember talking to the woman who wrote, who was led my writing workshop, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do without this. I just loved it, and I loved the community, and she said, "Oh, Deb, you fool, you sweet little fool, you're going to start your own."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And honestly, as soon as I got back, I it was one of the first things I did. I had a
Mm.
friend who had a cafe and she only did lunches and brunches. And so Thursday nights, she said, here's the key to my cafe. Have everybody put money in if they make coffee and whatever. And I started doing workshops there.
Mm.
And then I was going to try to make that my thing, but it was really, really hard. Coaching was still new. This kind of, even though I wasn't doing coaching one-on-one, just the whole idea of this stuff was still kind of new and people were into it, but they didn't want to do more than kind of what I was doing. And I was finding a hard time figuring out how to expand. So I said, I'm going to go find a job again. I think I need to
Mm.
find a job. The freelancing is hard. This is hard. And and that's kind of how I found myself back in the arts community in New Jersey. And then I found the job at the
Mm.
Theater Alliance and I wound up at the Theater Alliance for like 8 some years, something like that. And at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I was building this on the side, saying to myself, well, maybe this business will be, I thought, this will be my retirement business because
Mm-hmm.
and I had done this. I'd gone to visit friends in California and I set up a workshop for while I was back. And, um, tax deductible, fly back and visit my friends and get a bunch of people to pay to do a workshop. Yay, tax deductible trip. And I thought this is going to be my retirement job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know. I met my now husband, and he was really encouraging me to give it more attention because he
Mm-hmm.
really felt like if you really want it to be a retirement job, it's got to be a little bit more than just a side hustle that you're doing because you come home from work and you're exhausted, and you do one or two workshops a month, and that's it's nice pin money, but it's not really gonna be a retirement job. And so he encouraged me. And honestly, once the Affordable Care Act was in place, because he's a therapist, so he was on my insurance. And once the Affordable
Mm-hmm.
Care Act came, we were like, okay, let's make the leap. And so that's kind of
Hmm.
when I started doing it full out around then.
Wow.
Yeah,
So I didn't realize that you had already been starting, while you were when I first met you. And I
yeah,
love I mean, of course the situation with 9/11 was just devastating, heartbreaking, but I understand how that would have pulled you back over here. And just that feeling of desperation of wanting to be close with your community and your people, like I get that, and that is a crucial part of the story. I
yeah,
also love how when you had this idea, your community like gathered around you and like your friend is like, cool, yeah, here's your venue, here's the keys, use my cafe, like do what you got to do. I love that, you were supported in that way. And also that the work that you do by doing these workshops and these like community events, like you can have this online business and you can host these wherever. You can host them virtual, you can host them in person, and you can, quickly kind of pull together an event like that is very, very cool. And having that realization that you preferred the community kind of vibe, like, working with a group of women as opposed to so much one-on-one, with the coaching that just wasn't your thing. I
Yeah,
think that was a really cool realization of how to kind of pivot, where you were headed. What do you particularly love about leading workshops for women in this way?
I I love I love seeing them often come in um, hesitant, nervous, like this sense of a lot of times women come in and they don't even really know why they're coming. They're just like
Mm,
this feeling like I kind of want to write. I sort of feel like I have something to say. I don't really know, but there's this natural tendency that I see when they start. Like we do these things where we write for just a period of time together, and then people can share what they've written. And we don't give feedback, we don't give suggestions, we don't give structure. We acknowledge. I call it compassionate witnessing. We just
hmm.
witness. I mean, you can say something like, uh, I love the way you described the flowers, or um, I was really moved. But it's not about, oh, I wish you would change the little thing if you had only done
Hmm.
this, or I think you should expand this. It's none of that. It's really just, sometimes people just do, like we're in a, you know, we're very cool. We snap our fingers or we do, um, that sort of thing as acknowledgement. But there's this natural tendency of women before they read. I have seen it for years and years of doing this of like, well, I don't even really know if this is very good. Or,
Mm,
I don't know. I wasn't really sure where I was going with this. Like a lot of qualifying and apologizing. And what's amazing is when they read their stuff out loud, and then even if nobody says a word, even if nobody says, thank you, I loved that, even if people just kind of like give a little bow or they give, like a little heart sign or whatever, that they just feel like heard and witnessed. And there's this, all of a sudden, this lightness of like, sometimes just hearing what they wrote out loud, like, I didn't realize I had so much. One, didn't realize I had so much to say. And two, I didn't realize like I could actually say it as well as I thought I
mm,
could say, because it's, we're not perfecting anything. We're just writing off the cuff. And
hmm.
somehow or another, there's this just magic that happens. I mean, there are all these little guidelines that I give that I think sort of create that space of safety and make
Yeah.
people feel like they don't have to be perfect and all this kind of stuff. But it's just watching people just kind of like, I don't know, there's like a weight that's lifted. There's a sense of just lightness and excitement. And yeah,
Hmm.
I just love being around that. I love watching women kind of get what's magic about themselves. And that
Oh,
happens
yes.
sometimes once and sometimes it happens just over time. Um,
Yeah. That line about, seeing women understand the magic that they have about themselves. Like, I love that so much because what I think is so cool about what you're doing with those events and with those opportunities is you're inviting them in, you're giving them a platform, you're kind of like you're giving them that invitation to express themselves where um, you know, maybe they've been biting their tongue, they've been afraid to do so, they don't know how to do so. They needed someone to encourage them to start or kind of, push them off the diving board in a sense. And I love that. What did you say? Compassionate witnessing? Is that what you
yeah,
called it?
yeah, yeah,
I
compassionate.
love that. That's like such a kind, warm, like low pressure kind of way because you're not giving uh a speech that's going to be graded or
No.
you don't have to be so prepared, but just being able to have that support I know would be just so incredible. And why do you think that writing in particular, like you said, you've had a journal since you were 11 years old, um, which I love. Why do you think that writing in particular is such a powerful tool for like self-care and self-connection?
Well, it there's something about, I mean, there's all sorts of, you could look up all the science about it, but there really
Mm-hmm.
is something about just the connection between the brain and a pen that
Mm.
makes something real. And if I tried to explain the science of it, I would completely muck it up. So I'm not going to try. But
That's okay.
and I know some people like to use their computers, and that's cool. I used to be very much like you, just give it a try at least once with the
Mm-hmm.
pen. But I know that sometimes it's just it's hard to get that much out. So yeah, it's okay if you need to use the computer. Okay, fine. But there really is something magical about that. The
Mm-hmm.
things that flow out when we just let ourselves and we don't, it's just, we're not censoring ourselves. When we're not censoring
Mm.
ourselves and we just let it flow, it's amazing how much comes out. And there really is something magical about that. It's also, there's calming aspects of it. It's, there are other scientific, if you look up James Pennebaker, he
Mm.
writes about, there are all sorts of studies about how even 15 minutes a day of writing about things that are stressful or emotionally taxing can just lift spirits and make people feel better. So there's
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of science behind it. I just say it's kind of magic because it is. The
Mm-hmm.
science is that it's kind of magic. So
Mm-hmm. You
yeah,
know, something that like I was thinking about how, especially with the ADHD, I do use the computer a lot. I also use like talk to text. I do like shortcut things that save me
yeah,
time. But
I do too.
when when I do put pen to paper and I journal or whatever, something that typing will never be able to replace is your freaking rage in the moment or your your sadness or how hard you write, how big you write, how you're tearing the pages or
Yeah,
whatever. And
yeah,
also like I'm somebody who if you were to look back at, my high school and college notebooks, like the margins are filled with doodles and random side thoughts and like all of that kind of stuff. You can't really do that as easily when you're typing. So
no,
I definitely see the benefit of using the pen itself as like a literal physical exercise, like an extension
yes,
of you, an extension like from your brain to your arm to the ink.
yes,
Like I get that. I totally get that.
yeah.
And hold on one second. I just have to turn off my alarm. I'm gonna
No,
edit
it's
this
okay.
part out. Sorry about
No,
that.
it's fine.
Where is it? There we go. Um, so
And
yeah, I totally
you just articulated that probably better than I did. Like
oh
what is magic about it? Because it is,
hmm
you see the the words on that physical that just it is physical. There is something, that
hmm
moves the energy in the body somehow. I mean,
hmm
that sounds very, crunchy
hmm
granola and woo woo, but it kind of is, it is kind of crunchy granola
it
and woo woo. And okay.
Yeah. Like nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I completely get that. And I want to talk more a little later about writing for stress relief
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
particular. I want to talk through that. But before we do that, for women who are listening or anyone who's listening, if they are trying to figure out how they might get started with a journaling practice from home or, with themselves, maybe they're not ready to go to an event just yet, but they
Yeah.
feel like they have something to say. Maybe they're feeling awkward or resistant. I know that you have some really cool blog posts on your website with some prompts and stuff. I would love to
Yeah.
hear more about that or any advice you might have for folks who are, curious about starting something like this.
Yeah. Most of my blog posts have a little try this at home suggestion at the bottom, of things that people can do to, just find ways to make, to incorporate things in their journaling practice or to start a
Hmm
journaling practice. Um, but I think one of the best ways to start is to just to say, I've got a lot to say. Just start with, I've got a lot to say and
Hmm.
see what comes out. Also say, one of my favorites that I often do with people is sometimes I just give them a prompt. I just pull something like pull a quote, like go into a book that you really like and point to a page and there'll be like a line there and just use that or use two words or something, and somebody
Hmm.
once wrote sent me something that said, I was doing that and I found something like something about the beauty of tailoring. And they just use that as like you pull ridiculous things, but somehow or
Mm.
another, you'll think of something. You might talk about a dress that you once wore. You might talk about, I mean, I don't know. You might talk about James Taylor, because the word Taylor brings you somewhere. There's no rule to what you write. I do call that what do you call the Outback Steakhouse? No rules, just right. I'm so funny. God, please
Oh
edit that.
my
Please
God.
edit that. That is so dorky.
I I
You,
am not editing
you're
that.
not
That is
editing that.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, save me from myself. Um,
I love it.
but you know, if you're writing something and you start going and you feel like, oh God, what am I doing? Just one of my favorite things is to just write, actually physically write it down. What I really mean to say is. It's
Hmm.
amazing what just writing those words do to just kind of take you, even if you're writing about James Taylor. You wrote about something about tailoring and you write about James Taylor, and all of a sudden what I really mean to say is, and you go in and you talk about all of a sudden something just kind of sinks. What I
Hmm.
really and you can keep repeating that. What I really mean to say is boom, down, deep. And you get
Hmm.
deeper and deeper and deeper the more that you are willing to tell yourself that you want to say what you really mean to say.
Hmm.
It gets you sunk in. Can't think of another word for that, but I always
Hmm.
like that, got a lot to
Hmm.
say, what I really mean to say, or just pull up a random quote somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
love
also
that
think, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the what you said about what I really mean to say is because it almost forces you to pause and like it forces you to gather your thoughts. It's kind of forcing you to figure out what the point is. Like, okay,
Hmm.
you've gone through the messy, like, let me just brain dump,
Yep.
whatever. And then you're like, okay, I'm trying to make my point. What I really mean to say is, and it just like gently guides you to the destination you're trying to get to. I really think that's cool.
Well, the other thing that I love about it is that I don't, most of the time I encourage people to just, give yourself a short period of time.
Hmm.
Don't feel like you have to sit down and write for, half hour or whatever. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about morning pages and
Hmm.
Julia Cameron and that sort of
That comes
thing.
up a lot on on this
Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
I I have a love, I can't say hate because I don't hate, but like I have a love frustrating thing about that. I don't feel like it has to be the morning. I don't feel like it has
Hmm.
to be 3 pages. It
Hmm.
just, if you can give yourself 5 minutes and get something down, no matter what. And I understand she thinks that's when you're clearest and you haven't gotten the day
Hmm.
in the way. But if you're
Hmm.
setting yourself up and think I've got to do 3 pages in the morning and they must be 3 pages and they must be in the morning before I get out of bed, a lot of people won't do that. They have kids, they've got stuff, they've got a partner that wants to whatever. The dog has to
Yeah.
go out. You,
Hmm.
it might set you up for failure. So just give yourself 5 minutes. I mean, I often say you're waiting for the coffee to brew. Okay, the coffee's brewing. You can just start
Mm.
with, I really wish that coffee were done, and then see what happens. And if you do what I really mean to say, you don't even have to stop. Don't stop and think. Just see what happens. Just keep it, keep that pen. Keep the pen
Hmm.
moving. Keeping the pen moving keeps the words flowing, even if you just keep
Hmm.
repeating the same words until something else pops.
Yeah. And again, as an ADHDer, I love being able to multitask. So, and you've got the dopamine reward of the coffee at the end of your writing. So
Hello?
that's very cool to get a task done that is something you want to do, but it's also like, okay, how do I start this practice in my life. Like that's a good routine, kind of way to do it. And you're right, like everyone's life is different. That doesn't always make sense in the morning. And I think of it in the same kind of way as I've talked about meditation a couple times on this podcast, and I've always said how, like I'm not a good meditator because I am like, I don't have time for that. I can't like sit still long enough and like meditation, like that's like so long and boring. I can't. Until I learned from, several people who's like, it could be 60 seconds. Like it's just about like being intentional about the time, giving that time to yourself, however long or however short, and doing it. And with journaling, in a similar sense, I when you said before, like I have a lot to say. I do have a lot to say. I've chosen podcasting and social media as my main way to say stuff,
Yeah.
but with journaling, my therapist told me, she's like, don't think of like what you were saying about Julia Cameron. Don't think of like I have to journal, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's more like it's there for you if you need it. It's there for you when you want a tool to help you, to support you, and to not think of it as something that you should be doing. Of course, so many folks love writing and that's their preferred platform. But for folks who maybe are, curious about it, but, maybe feeling like, I don't really know how to start that. I think everything you just said was really, really
Sorry,
helpful.
there goes my dog. My dog is, she hears
Oh, I
something.
didn't hear anything.
Oh, good. Okay.
But yes,
Um,
Deb has her dog with us today.
Another thing I was thinking was, a lot of times, because you mentioned you use social media for your, that's where you do your expressing, but, that is writing. And a lot of people, I notice, people have like memes and things on online,
Hmm.
what are your favorite books? And everybody writes about their favorite books. And I think I wrote a blog post about this actually, but or what are your top five, songs of all time? And people like they want to write about it because they've got stuff to say. There's
Mm.
stuff that's interesting to them. And I often find that if you start to write something as a response to one of those things, or a friend has something and you're thinking, oh man, that was really thoughtful and I want to give my 2 cents to that. That's a start of journaling. You can write what you wrote, copy and
Hmm.
paste that, keep that, and use that
Hmm.
as a prompt for yourself at another time because
Hmm.
you've got something to say. You saw something, somebody wrote something online, you saw somebody's post and it inspired you. You wanted to reply to it. Maybe you don't have time to reply to it. That's that you've created your own prompt bank. So,
Hmm. That's
those are
such a good point.
those are the places to look. Like, where are the places that you find yourself going, even if it's something that you would never, like, I find myself all the time. I see somebody say something online that I don't like, politically, and I find myself wanting to go, well, that goes, that
Hmm.
goes in like a prompt bank, or I just
Hmm.
sit down and I write about it
Yeah.
right there. And
Yeah.
I do not engage in those kind of conversations online because it's not worth it. But I will
I know.
engage on my own offline on in my
Hmm.
journal or in a notebook. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point because obviously like people love sharing their opinions. Like that's one of the engagement components I talk about in my social media course is, inviting those conversations and some tactics for doing that. And one of the examples and suggestions is like to literally ask for people's opinions, as simple as that. And because people want to talk, they want to share, like you just said, favorite songs, favorite books, all that kind of stuff. Best restaurant in New Jersey, blah, blah, blah. And also, I've seen those prompt challenges. I think you've participated in a bunch of those. Those are really cool too, because they're not that you have to do all 30 days or whatever, but they're giving you a specific thing and like, oh, maybe this inspires me. I'm going to write about that today. And I think those are really fun and engaging too. Um, so I love everything that you just said about all of those suggestions and ideas. So talking about the business.
Yes.
Uh, your business is currently in this kind of morphing question mark, kind of swirling thing
Yeah.
because you've recently gone through a very, very profound and really hard time in your
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
the floor is yours for however you'd like to tell us about a little bit about that. I would love to hear about your personal story in whatever way feels comfortable to you.
Yeah.
And sidebar, I'm happy to edit any of this later, whatever you want. But
Thank you.
yeah, I would love to just hear about what happened and kind of
Yeah.
how it has. affected your
Yeah.
life?
Um, well, I often see, I don't know, a year or so ago, I remember I was talking to somebody. I was like, the last couple years were shitty, and they were like, "Oh yeah, lockdown." I went, "Oh right, lockdown too." Lockdown too. Yeah, that was
Mm,
happening at the same time. So, early in the pandemic, my sister, who is a year, 2 weeks and a day older than I am, was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma.
mm,
And we thought in the beginning, we thought like it was caught early and she had like a good shot. It's really still hard for me to say the words, but she died in August of 21. And and during that period, we lived about 2.5 miles from each other, and that was like a weird thing. My sister had lived in this area like for years and years and years. And I always used to say she lived in the boonies because I'd always lived a
mhm,
little bit closer to New York. And then when my husband and I were looking for a house, we found we couldn't afford anything that was in the area that I'd been living. And we kept moving further and further out. And the next thing you know, we found a house and it's 2.5 miles from my sister. And she was like, you live further away from, this one of this main drag. She's like, you live further in the boonies than I do. Um, but while she was sick, I was, just sort of helping with care, and just being with her, not always just active care, just being with her.
mhm,
Um, and and during that period of time, I had a membership group. I was doing workshops. I was doing some, um, a variety of things with my people, and I pretty much cut everything except my membership group,
mhm,
because I just didn't have the bandwidth. And then, um, like the last month or so of her life, I put my membership group on hold, and
mhm.
everybody was really cool. I said, we'll be back. I just don't have the bandwidth, and they all knew what was going on, so
Sure.
I put it on hold, and I really thought I'd be back, within a couple of months, but
Mhm.
you know. I don't know what I was thinking. I just couldn't get back. I just couldn't
Yeah.
bring myself back somehow.
Yeah.
And at the same time, my father had this illness that we didn't really know what it was. And when we finally found out what it was a form of ALS called bulbar ALS, which is um, confined primarily to the head, neck, and then it usually moves pretty rapidly through the body. But my father had this really slow moving version
Mhm.
that, like a week before he died, he was still doing back exercises. So he
Wow.
wasn't like he wasn't in a wheelchair. But my dad then died 10 months after my sister.
Mm.
And they were birthday twins. So my sister was born on my dad's birthday,
Oh,
25 years
wow.
after him. So it was just like, I don't know. I think he just couldn't. Um, it was bad. I mean, it was just getting worse. So, and then my dad
Mhm.
died, and I was his trustee. I just didn't have the bandwidth, and I couldn't seem to come back. I could not
Mhm.
seem to bring myself back um, to my work. Every time I thought, oh, I'm coming back, or I'd have a conversation with one of my writer babes, I'd say, like, I think, and they'd be like, don't force yourself. And the next
Yeah.
thing you know, here it is. It's been 3 years. I haven't
Mhm.
done a program. I think I did a freebie once, or I did like a thing with my writer babes together, just I missed people. So I sort of sent a note around to the insiders and I said, want to get together.
Yeah.
And we did, but I haven't done anything like really publicly. I haven't, um, and, um, yeah, so it's just been the amount of time it's taken to kind of get myself. And I have to say, like I'm incredibly fortunate because my husband, was in a position with his work that
Hmm.
with me doing this stuff, he could, kind of float us.
Hmm.
Um, we've had to cut back on a lot of things. Our life is not
Sure.
nearly as, chillaxed as it was before because I'm not bringing in anything. But it definitely, I am in a privileged position because you know, I didn't have to come back.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but I've been thinking that I want to come back, but I want to
Hmm.
come back differently. And so that's been the harder part now with
Hmm.
thinking of, is my dog, can you hear her? No?
No,
Okay. Because she
no.
is barking like a crazy maniac. Hey, hey, Girleen, chillax, chillax. No, she's
There's a
like,
dog in the background here too, and he's barking
okay,
as well. So it's
okay.
okay. We
All right,
like
we're
dogs
good.
here. Everything's
Okay,
cool.
okay. So yeah, so that's kind of it,
Hmm.
is thinking about coming back, wanting to do it differently, not sure what it's going to look like. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
I mean, first, I am just so amazed by how strong you are and everything that you've gone through. And I just I'm so happy that you paused. I'm so happy that
mm,
your friends were encouraging you, don't come back, don't force it. Take all the time that you need. And I also am so happy that when you needed to, hey, I need some community right now, let me gather everybody. Let's just touch base. I love that they were there for you. Your community shows up for you. And that makes me
yeah, I love
really
my
happy.
peeps.
Yeah, it speaks to the vibe that you you put out there. But you've gone through so much, and I know you're still trying to figure out, what is the next thing.
Yeah,
Um, and that was a little bit about what I was talking about in the intro before I welcomed you in, about how, life throws these curveballs and life kind of forces you to hit pause sometimes. And we can't always plan for that. There's no way to plan for that. And, I think sometimes we don't know what's around the bend, and we sometimes feel like, especially as small business owners, we feel like we're not allowed to pause. We can't. We have to keep things going. And I was saying how um especially with our background in theater, like, oh, the show must go on. No, it doesn't. They're getting
yeah,
a refund where the stage manager's coming out and saying, hold, please, and that's it.
yeah,
And sometimes
right.
we have to step back. And
Yeah,
so I wonder what you've experienced, or felt, or what advice you might give for folks who maybe they're, juggling something similar and they don't have a plan, they don't have a safety net, and they're
yeah,
struggling with the overwhelming feelings of, okay, yeah, my business, but I don't care about that right now. I have like,
yeah,
this
yeah,
this real shit going
yeah,
on.
yeah. Like something's happening. So one of the things that you said, which I think is, yeah, I've been through a lot, but I'm not saying this to like compare my insides with other people's outsides, but people go through a lot. Like a lot of people go
Hmm.
through a lot. So
Hmm.
for me, um, to have gone through all the stuff, yeah, it was shitty. A lot of people go through shitty stuff. So, um, I just want to say, I know people go through shit. Like that's the amazing thing was there. I found so many people who were writing to me like, oh yeah, and I lost my brother and my kid within, a year of each other. Be like, because
Hmm.
stuff happens, or I divorced and, my dog died and shit happens and it's terrible.
Hmm.
And, I think the way the world operates in general, the way the business world operates, and the way the small business world has operated has been this hustle thing. Like you got to
Mm.
keep going, you got to keep going, and I think things are changing. I hope
Yeah.
things are changing. I don't think I'm the only one who's saying enough of this, this funnel, and you got to do this and you must do that, and this is the way it has to be done. Ooh. Um, so if somebody's going through shit, um, that old, who was that? If you're going through hell, keep going. Is that Winston
Oh yeah,
Churchill
yeah.
or no, no,
I
whoever it is. If you're
right, I
going
know the
through,
quote though.
yeah, if you're going through hell, keep going. Sometimes if you're going through hell, just stop. Just stop for a second. Um,
Yeah.
and one thing I would say, and I'm grateful that I have always, well, not always, when I was in theater, no, I couldn't, I didn't have it, but I started trying to save that whole idea of have a cushion, have 3 months, have 6 months,
Hmm.
do the best that you can to find a cushion. I highly recommend following, oh God, I'm going to forget her name. It's her first 100K
Oh
on
yeah.
Instagram,
Hmm.
financial feminist. I can't remember her name, but she's like got all of these wonderful ideas about how to get that kind of cushion because having a cushion is freedom. Having a cushion gives you choices. And I did have some of that, which made things not quite so bad,
Hmm.
for us, even though my husband had, some money coming in. Um,
Hmm.
but I didn't have to put it all on him because I had a cushion.
Yeah.
And I think having a cushion is really smart because it gives you freedom. But I also think the second, what that has nothing to do with money, is is that it's gonna look it's going to look how it's going to look.
Yeah.
Sometimes it meant not, I couldn't get out of bed.
Hmm.
Sometimes it meant the only time I got up was because the dog needed to be walked.
Hmm.
Sometimes it meant I didn't journal at all. And I kept saying to myself, wait a minute, you're this writing person. And I was beating myself up that I couldn't bring myself to put it on the page. Like I just
Hmm.
couldn't, it just wasn't coming. I just couldn't even let myself have that out. People be like, are you crying a lot? I'd be like, no, I
Hmm.
was numb. And I think you have to give yourself room for numb. You have to give yourself room for tears. You have to give yourself room for rage.
Hmm.
And if it's on the page, great, because I'm all about
Hmm.
that. But, I kept saying I'm like this person who's the writer babe and I'm not writing, which
Yeah.
was partially why I started doing more stuff on Instagram, like following people's memes, because I was like, I just have to kind of get back in the groove. And
Hmm.
sometimes even I need somebody to tell me what to write about, like here, write about this, write about that. And that kind of got me
Yeah.
writing again.
Hmm.
And as far as the business goes, it's just been about like going in and saying, okay, I'm going to look at my website, and for a while, I didn't even touch my website. And there are things on there. I'm sure there's still things on there that are like, say, you know, what this is when my next workshop's going to be
Hmm.
2002,
Yeah.
2022. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Sure.
no, no,
Yeah, sure.
no. But
Um, I wanted to ask too, because like when you're starting to talk about how the the stuff that you could always do without fail, the stuff you could fall back on, like you enjoy journaling, writing, like that's your thing, and you couldn't do that. Like it just shows how, going through this grief, how it then relates to your work now, your passions now, and like, what you're learning, um, or I guess what going through that experience is teaching you about yourself. And like you just said, I don't care about hustle anymore. Like this isn't important to me. I don't need to, you know, um, create and move forward in the way that I'm supposed to.
yeah,
And I am gonna pause and stop. Like, that is so fantastic to hear. And I think so many people would relate to that of just like, no, I don't have to just keep going. I
no.
can't. I literally can't get out of bed. And so as you're thinking about whatever your business is going to morph into, and what you might offer or, think through or whatever, how has it been to kind of explore that after a long pause? Like what are some of the sticking points for you, if you'd be willing to share? Like what's kind of tough as you're thinking through what next might be?
Um, I think the sticking points are anytime I think anytime you kind of look at the world is that this was the way it was done, and then I shouldn't say you. Anytime I look at the world
Hmm.
or look at the way something had been done or has been done, and it's reinventing, it's very easy to fall into the old grooves of that way that it was done. And finding a way to not do it that way. I have a really, really good friend who has, her name is Kirsten Martin, and she has this business. She used to teach Squarespace, and she used to teach
Hmm.
people how to use Squarespace. And she got tired of hustle, and now she has sort of shifted. She's pivoted, and now she teaches what she's called calm business. And so I've
Hmm.
been like, and she's a really great friend. So I'm very, very fortunate that I've been kind of watching what she's done in some of the
Hmm.
back end stuff of what she's done. And I look at that and I think, okay, well, she's recreating. And she had a six-figure business and she was like, this is not working.
Hmm.
And said, I gotta make a change because it wasn't working for her. And so I watch what she's doing. And so in a way, I'm kind of trying to fashion it a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but it's very, we have very, very different work. I mean, she's
Yeah.
business to business, and I'm, you know, me to whoever,
One to one. Hmm.
uh, you know, uh, business to individual humans, and
Hmm.
not for their business. And so it's a different world, but I'm looking at other people who are making some of those shifts and seeing whether or not I can learn something from that. But
Hmm.
my natural tendency, I call it's like a skip, the old, I'm showing my age, the skipped records, and you're
Yes.
listening to an
Yes.
album and it skips and it just keeps on skipping at the same spot. And so,
Hmm.
you know, you have to do something, put some pennies, weight some pennies on your
Mm.
thing to get it so that it stops the skip. And I'm still in the skip
Hmm.
thinking about like, I could do this. And then I'm like, no, that's the old way. I got to figure out what are the weights I can put on myself to stop me from falling into that old pattern. And so that's
Mm.
kind of what I'm playing with. And sometimes that's simply getting on my website and looking at my website and reading things that I've said before and going, who the fuck is this? You know?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah,
swear on
because
your
you're,
podcast? Am I allowed to swear on your
yes,
podcast?
please
Yes.
go.
Okay. Yes. Because I swear a lot. I've been trying to hold myself back. Um, yeah. So I look at my website and I think, who the fuck is that? What the hell was I selling? And so it's
Yeah.
really kind of like trying to see who am I now?
Yeah.
What
I
am I
was just
doing
gonna
now?
say I feel like you're a new person in so many ways. You're a changed person in so many ways. And that can only then trickle down into everything. I mean, you're still Deb, you're still you, but you're a new Deb, you're a new
Yeah.
you, and you're a changed you. And I think that whatever you decide to do, however you decide to move forward, um, it's it's so it's going to be the right fit for you at who you are or as who you are now, and how you can show up for your business and your people in whatever looks right for you. I feel like, you were saying earlier, uh, when you're prompting and it's just, there's no right or wrong, just do whatever. Um, that conveys in this way as well. Like there's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever is best for you. And that it can always change whenever. You can change your
Yeah.
mind again. You can rip it out and, start over again. And
Oh,
I
I
just
hate it
really
when that
appreciate
happens. I hate it when I hate it when what I teach comes back to haunt me.
But I love that you're taking us behind the scenes with you of this moment of where you're at right now and kind of
Mm,
brainstorming, the ups and downs and what do I want, what do I not want anymore. And the fact that you don't know, you don't know the next step, like we're kind of in this limbo space, and I think that that's really cool, honestly. Is there anything that you know for sure you want to keep going, or you're just completely everything's blank page right now, total?
No, I want to go. I want the Writer Babes back. I mean, the Writer
Hmm.
Babes is my membership group, and it's the women who have been with me for forever. I mean, it started, my group was called, I mean, I used to call it Living Out Loud Writing and Creativity Groups. And we just started calling ourselves somehow or another, like, oh, Writer Babes at my house, Writer Babes here, whatever we're doing, Writer
Yeah.
Babes. And one of the women in the group said that she posted something on Facebook about how she was going to the Writer Babes, and somebody commented on it. It sounds like people who write by day and solve crimes at night. And we were like, yes, that's us. Um, but
It's
it
awesome.
just, yeah, that morphed. And that's just the Writer Babes, because that's how it
Hmm.
felt. That's who we were. We named ourselves kind of. And I want them back. I want that community of women back. And I don't know that, it's been a few years. I don't know if all of them will come back.
Hmm.
They may not. Time has goes on, and you find other things that support you, and then they may not come back, and some may. And but I love that kind of small, intimate group work. And
Hmm.
when I say small, it's not teeny, but it's, like, um,
It's cozy.
it's a cozy, intimate
Yeah.
community. And, sometimes there would be three people on a call, and sometimes
Hmm.
there would be 15 on a call. But, we knew each other after a while. You kind of get to know each other. And so it felt cozy, even if it was a bigger, you know. And so I
Yeah.
kind of want that back, but I'm not even sure how to call them back.
Hmm.
And whether I want to, when do I want to start? And it's so many
Yeah.
questions, so many questions.
But I
I don't,
love that you're like going back to your roots in a sense. Like that's kind of where you started in a
yeah,
way,
yeah,
because you were like, I really like this small, kind of gathering of women, this small community cluster. You then reach back out to them over the years, like they've kind of been your foundation. And I think it's really cool that you're gonna continue with that, and that feels
yeah,
good to you still. I think that's great.
yeah.
Um, and I wonder for anyone out there who might be navigating like a similar, like, what the fuck am I doing now moment, or trying to think through, like, what do I even consider? How do I figure out what I want to do? I know you don't have all the answers, but would you have any advice for them?
I have no answers. That's the answer.
Okay.
No,
I love it. I love
no,
it.
but I would, I mean, honestly, I would suggest, and it's something that I've been doing, is I have been writing about it.
Hmm.
What do I want? What does still, oh no, Lucy, come on. What does still ring a bell
There's
I'm sorry,
Lucy.
here's Lucy.
If
Here's Lucy.
you're
She was
watching
starting to
this on
climb out of her,
YouTube,
sorry, she was climbing,
that's
no, get
okay.
off of my thingy, dog. She was climbing off off out of her, trying to get out of her little, I keep a basket on my desk, and she was trying to climb out of her
Hmm.
basket. Um,
I love it.
I
Watch
would,
this on YouTube, everybody.
um, I would, kind of writing about, like, what what does work, what
Mm,
doesn't work, what do you, like, to me, I said sometimes it's like, what do you want? I mean, I would like to, I would like my business to still be a potential retirement job. I would like it to
yeah.
be a pre-retirement job. I would like it to be a thing that, come on, let's get down. Um, so I know what I would like it to be, sort of sustainable. I would like it to not exhaust me. I would like, I get that stuff down.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm rambling.
Nope,
Um,
you're not.
I I just think getting stuff on paper can help.
Yeah.
I really
Hmm.
do. And it helps me. It doesn't always bring me an answer, but it gets me a little closer. It's
Yeah.
like sailing. I'm sort of tacking on my way to something, and sometimes I gotta go
Hmm.
this way, and then I gotta go, that way. And
Yeah. So, uh, on that same kind of idea, you mentioned earlier writing for stress relief,
Oh yeah.
and that's something that has been helpful for you and your community. And we talked about, your blog does have some prompts folks can explore and stuff,
Yeah.
but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the specific like stress relief side of things, because I know you also have a really fun freebie on your website, if it's still a thing,
Yeah,
the
it's
15
still there.
ways.
As a matter of fact, I just looked at it earlier today and I'm like, "Oh, there's still some dates that are like, 2000." So I'm gonna
It's
put up
okay.
a new one, but everything else is pretty much the same, but I think one of the things that, I
Wait,
have
let me pause you for 1 second. I just want to make sure I get the title of that freebie. It's called 15 Ways to De-Stressify from These Crazy Ass Times. Like, I love
yeah,
that title. Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think I originally put that up during Cheeto 1.0, and now it's Cheeto 2.0. And so,
Mhm.
well, there's my, now you know where I stand. It's not hard. If you follow me on Instagram, it ain't hard. Um, so, you know, I think um, one of the things that happens in stressful situations is this feeling that there's no control,
hmm
and this feeling that I can't do anything to help manage this stuff. And so the recommendations that I have are different. I have different prompts. Some of them are things that you can write, and some of them are things you can do. Most of them are
hmm
things you can write. But I have one of my favorites, which is the first one, is what can I control right now? What can I control? And sometimes it's as simple as I can control what I put in my mouth. I can control when I go to sleep. I can control whether or not I get fresh air, and to get that stuff down and then to remember, like to remind yourself, like I can control some things.
hmm
And to have a bunch of, like, I have one that where I think I called it write a song, but it's not really that you have to write a song, but that to find a song that has been meaningful to you and that makes you feel like I can do anything, and to
Mm.
actually write the lyrics down and to
Oh, I like
remind
that.
yourself, like, oh, sometimes it's that physical exercise of getting words down, even if they're not the words that you wrote, but to get
hmm
them out and to make you feel like, oh, okay, I can get somewhere with this.
What is that
um
song for you?
What's that song for me? I have a, it depends on the thing. When it comes to one song that always makes me feel, and it has nothing to do with the lyrics, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
write down. But if I need to move and I need to get myself like physically just going, which I love to dance, so I will sometimes just put on
Mm.
music. I will put on Dancing Queen,
There we
and it
go.
just makes me feel like, okay, I'm just gonna just get the yayas out, just really get them out. And so,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't write that down because that doesn't empower me. It
Mm.
just makes me want to
hmm
dance.
It's
But
just
yeah,
fun. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
But
I love that. So I'm gonna put in the show notes for this episode too. I'm gonna make sure I link to that freebie. I'm gonna make sure I link to your blog too, and your website and your Instagram. And I just have loved this conversation
oh,
so
thanks, honey.
much. This was really, really fun. And I can't wait for you to come back. And in whatever way that means and however you
Thank
decide to
you.
do it, I
Thanks,
just fully
sweetie.
support you. And I think the world needs you. And I think your community is going to come back and be there for you, and
Thanks,
even then
sweetheart.
some. So I can't wait to see what's ahead. And you take all the time that you need, and we are all supporting you. And before we wrap, I just want to ask, this is a completely random question, but I like to ask it. What is something right now that you are just like completely obsessed with, or something that just is really bringing you joy right now? It could
Oh,
be anything.
um, I have been rewatching Ted Lasso.
Yes. Yes.
I've been rewatching Ted Lasso. That
Oh, it's so
just,
good.
yeah, that makes me pretty darn happy. That makes me pretty darn
hmm
happy. Yeah.
It's so good. And it's like that show is like it's like a therapy session. It's like a
It
joy
is.
vitamin,
Yeah.
and it has like the best music supervisor with all the amazing songs in
Oh, it's
all of the
so
episodes. It's
good.
so good.
It's a balm. It is really a
Yeah.
balm, and I look for those. I look for those. So that's been, if anybody has any other ones that are um, Ted Lasso like, go find me on Instagram and DM me and tell me what I should watch because I could use some more. I rewatched some of Parks and Rec, and I realized that as
Mm.
much as I love Parks and Rec, I really don't like the way they treat Jerry Gergich. That always makes
Jerry,
me
Larry,
sad.
Terry.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't like the way they treat him. And so that
Uh-huh.
makes me a little sad, even though I love that show.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of the stuff I'm looking for. I'm looking for the stuff that's light and uplifting. That's kind of
Hmm.
the stuff I need.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what we all need.
Yeah.
Well, Deb, thank you so much. This has
Oh,
been so
thanks for having me,
fantastic.
dear. It's
Really,
been a
really
treat.
fun.
It's been a treat. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And folks, I'm gonna put Deb's links in the show notes, but you can find her at the Deb Cooperman on Instagram, and then you can visit her website, debcooperman.com. And can't wait to talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thanks for having me, sweetie.
Bye bye.